Hey, welcome. My name is Jessica Hall. I am CalSPA president. We are thrilled to host our conference callback this month for our Southwest region. I have no voice today, so I'm going to turn it over to NSPRA Vice President of the Southwest, Jennifer DeRico, to lead our introduction.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jessica. And while she doesn't have a voice today, she absolutely has a voice and represents your chapter leaders here in the Southwest region who get together quarterly to talk about the unique needs of each of your states and also of our Southwest region so that I can be your voice on our national board, which is an honor. So thank you for our members that are here and for each of our Southwest chapter leaders who are on the call in leading our second annual Southwest Region webinar series with CalSPA kicking that off. My name is Jennifer DeRico. I am the Southwest NSPRA Vice President, and it's my honor to serve all of you through 2025. And this is just the first of a monthly quarterly webinar series that is free to chapter and national members in the Southwest. And thank you to each of our chapters for sponsoring those. I just want to give a highlight. Today is the first one. Next up for the save the date is February 23rd. Our friends in Arizona will be bringing in an international AI trainer to talk about what the future of school PR can look like and how we ethically bring AI into our work. So stay tuned for that. That will be 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 12 p.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Central. And our next is March 20th. After that, from our friends in Colorado, creating a more welcoming and equitable educational world and why accessibility efforts raise our work for everyone. And that will be at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. And then our friends in Utah will be hosting an April date and session to be determined. And it is my pleasure to introduce today's webinar, The Opportunity of a Crisis, How HR and Communications Teams Can Work Together to Build Trust and Support in Difficult Situations. Definitely communicating difficult news is something that both human resources and communications teams deal with every day. It's not often that you find them housed in the same department. They're working side by side on really tough internal and external communications. Today, you get to learn from the award-winning team at Jurupa Unified. In today's session, Denise Hernandez, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Daniel Brooks, Assistant Superintendent of Education Services, and Jackie Paul, Director of Communications, are going to share some pointers on how your district team can get lasting support from your unions, staff, and the community through relationship building, transparency, and a seamless communications protocol. We're happy to have them here kicking off our Southwest Regional webinars are something that has been identified in our chapter leaders as a challenge across our region. And so we're happy to bring you just-in-time learning. And before I turn it over to Jackie to kick off this session, I also wanted to point out, I missed calling out that we have our Southwest region well-repped on the national board. Heidi Ortega is the president-elect of NSPRA. She is here in our region. She's on the call today as well. And we also have Trent Allen, who is a president this year of NSPRA from the Southwest region in California. So Jackie, I'm going to turn it over to you. And thank you all for joining us today.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. And as Jennifer mentioned, our topic today is the opportunity of a crisis and how our communications team works with HR and our other departments to take care of issues before they arise and when they arise. So as Jennifer had kindly introduced us, with us today is Denise Hernandez, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Mr. Daniel Brooks, Assistant Superintendent of Education Services, and I'm Jackie Paul, Director of Communications. So today, we're just going to, we already introduced ourselves, we're going to go over some of these topics. Why do HR and communications make a good fit? Well, you might surprise you, but we do. Why does trust matter and how to cultivate it? The importance of transparency, how a crisis can strengthen your internal communications, building your communications army. And then we're going to walk through some scenarios with you and let you put on your thinking caps and see how you might handle some of these situations. I'm going to turn it over now to Mr. Brooks.
Thanks, Jackie. So what you see before you is what we call our vision for the future. This is really our vision as a district, and everything that we're going to talk about today really works in support of this vision. And I think it's worth pointing out our superintendent, this is his vision essentially that he worked on. We're in the third year of implementing this vision. He's in the third year of his tenure as our superintendent. But he had a communications background here in the district. So I have the opportunity, the great pleasure of getting to work with Jackie and our communications team directly in my role as assistant superintendent. And our superintendent, Dr. Trent Hansen, actually that was his role before ascending to the superintendency. And so that's what he was doing as his assistant superintendent. So he knew and saw rightly that communications is really key to be able to successfully implement our vision. So obviously our core mission, like all of you, is around students and how we're teaching and learning effectively. So that's like kind of the top focus area there up on the upper left, achievement innovation. We also have our systems of support, all those things that we do to support our kids at school. But I really want to point out and highlight another key focus area for us as a district is that community and employee relations one. And so that's there on the bottom left. That's one of our focus areas. And our superintendent, who I think I failed to mention, is also an NSPRA, one of the superintendents to watch for 2023 nationally. He's doing a great job, an awesome job leading and pushing us in the area of communications, but it's because it's really a key part of his vision and how we're supporting our kids and making sure that they're learning and achieving where we would want them to every day.
Hi, everybody. I'm Denise Hernandez, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, and I have the pleasure of working for Harupa for 21 years. And having the vision that Mr. Brooks just outlined has really affected a lot of communication and trust in our district because we have been so intentional. So today's presentation, we are focusing on the focus area goal, community employee relations. We have an overarching goal to develop, maintain, strengthen relationships based on trust. Upon trust, respect, communication, and collaboration among colleagues, students, parents, and community members. And it takes the communication to all of those groups in order for us to be successful in building those relationships and trusts. And go to the next slide. So why do human resources and our communication department make a perfect match? I know most people will say, and it's not always the thought that communications and HR would work so closely together, but here in Harupa, we think differently, of course. We think it's actually a perfect match because we both are all about the people, how people receive information, how people interact at work, all of that, and what people need at work. And all of those are common goals between human resources and communications. We very strongly both work in internal communications in HR. We have a lot of communications we don't really say to everybody, but then there are big messages that we want to make sure that everybody hears. And we rely on communications and our work together in order to do that in the best way possible and systematically. We work very closely during a crisis or even small problems. We work really closely and we calibrate information and what's the best way to provide that information to the people in Harupa Unified School District. So building trust is what we talked about. Relationships matter. And here in human resources, our relationships are between the union leaderships. We have a classified and a certificated leader unions in our district, and we communicate with our unions, but we also communicate not just with them as the exclusive representatives. We want our messages to get out to everyone in order for our parents, our community, our teachers, our staff, our students to trust decisions and information that comes from Harupa. And so to do that, we need to build that trust. And we do that by ensuring that they have the communication. We're respectful. We show them respect by including them prior or within a certain timeline so that they know things that are coming so that they can help us with messages also. And I think with that, in a way that we have to make sure that we're transparent to the extent possible, we need to be honest. And I think that goes hand in hand with transparency. But because if you're not honest, that trust can't ever be there. And maybe not brutally honest, but definitely honest enough to make sure that they understand what is happening around the district. And how we do that is starting with clear and consistent messaging with everything. So making sure that employees have information first when any news is going to be shared. So we have, and we'll talk about it later, we have a system put in place that will allow us to make sure certain groups have information first, because they will then be asked about an issue or something that we are intending to communicate. So we want to get that information to them first.
And then jumping off of that, the importance of knowing your audience and how, not only when to communicate with them and what to communicate with them, but how to communicate with them. So for example, our internal audience might be a different approach. It might in some cases be a personal approach to them. Might be just a little different phrasing. But I do want to emphasize that we do keep the main message the same. And the reason is because if an issue happens, if any staff member is asked about that issue, we want them to have the correct, consistent message to share. And that has helped us to stop rumors. Yeah. Oh, sorry, guys. Yeah. There we go.
So, sorry, Jackie. So building trust with communication, promoting a positive culture that will help when tough situations arise. One, communicate often. Emails from our superintendent. People love to see our superintendent's name pop into their email box, and they trust him. I mean, he's charming. Everybody loves our superintendent. Like there's all these wonderful things, but if he says it, people trust that it's the message that they're supposed to be receiving and spreading. And the connection with union reps. We do this in so many ways. We have monthly meetings. We have standing meetings with our union leaderships, with our superintendent, and through any kind of issue, good or bad, or just important, the unions are hearing from the Human Resources Office regularly, daily, I would even say in our district, and vice versa. And then we are partnering with that communication. We're always in a conversation. And I think that that should be a standard. We have shout outs to staff. I know communications is amazing when it comes to all of their ideas and the different ways that we can shout out to staff, but we work together in order to do that. We facilitate here in HR, and we make sure to help highlight the folks and the good things that our folks are doing around the district also. And many of those efforts come into our social media, and those seem to be very popular for us. I'll keep going, Jackie. I'm going to get the next one. I think welcome employee input is another way to build trust and communication. It's important for employees to not just have to receive information, but also to share their thoughts, and for them to know that we're considering their thoughts. They know we're considering their thoughts because we provide them with opportunities to give that input. We facilitate meetings of all different kinds to meetings that we have to get input, but more than that, we go beyond that. We have surveys, we have face-to-face connections, we build relationships, we remember things about people, and I think also jumping back to the highlighting, when people feel valued, they will then feel that they can trust you to provide honest input. And then when we do something with that input is when they can they can see we are considering and listening, even if it's not every time, of course, right? We have a lot of leadership opportunities in Herba Unified School District. We have a leadership academy for certificated employees who are aspiring to be administrators. Currently, we have a classified leadership academy for our classified employees who are looking to either promote into other classified positions or into classified management. And part of those leadership opportunities, we make sure that communications and maybe etiquette, maybe why it's important to communicate or how to communicate, our communications department has always been invited into those settings in order to spread the information on the awareness and the importance of consistent and clear communication. And I know Ms. Paul has been definitely somebody who's been a breath of fresh air for Herba Unified School District, has come in and really shed some positive light on the importance of communication at all different levels, including social media. That's one that can get out to us quickly, but in many other aspects too.
Great, and just building on that, the reason or one of the reasons or great outcomes of building that trust and relationship base, you build loyalty, and when you have a common goal, a common message, that brings people together and makes them feel part of something bigger, which makes them feel that they are valued and they are doing an important job. They are important to the organization. And as an example, I would use our superintendent's vision for the future. You can find that in every classroom in the district, in every office, and everyone who works here could tell you what it is. They might not know all the fine print under the goal, but they know what the goals are and they know why we're doing it, and they can say what their role in fulfilling that vision is. And I think that's incredibly powerful, and makes you feel that when you come to work every day, you're not just here to get a paycheck, you're here to be part of something big, something important. And then finally, this is so simple, but I feel that our leadership here does it really well. Say thank you and happy birthday. I mean, when our team does a good job, some examples you're going to see later, but our best of the best and our employees of the year, or even just a simple thank you face-to-face from our team to other team members, makes them feel that they matter and that they're seen for what they do every day. And our superintendent sends an e-birthday card to every single person on our staff. So at 6 a.m. when you're getting ready for the school day and it's your birthday, and you know, maybe when you're my age, you're not that excited about it, but you get a nice birthday and a thank you for being part of our team. And that makes a huge difference. So with that, when you've built your loyal team and people feel they're part of something bigger, you can start to build what I call a communications army. I know it might be softer to call it a communications team, but sometimes you need an army. So have a team of communicators throughout your district who can help to ensure the correct information is shared instead of rumors. And I'm going to let Mrs. Hernandez talk a little more about that.
Thank you. So communications ambassadors, right? So if we have union representative, we have union leadership, and that's who the Human Resources Office speaks with every single day. We're talking about big conversations, overarching representation, but what we're talking about union reps, we also have site reps at each individual site. And what we have done is we have worked with our administration as well as our unions in order to build monthly site rep meetings with administration and the site reps in order for them to build their own trust and communication also. So then what we do is we provide them with messaging, and in a conversation, which they can then have those conversations at the school sites. Everybody's hearing the same conversations, but more on an individual basis, which then will spread the information that we need, or answers, or anything that we're trying to communicate to people, from people that are trusted. And we also have a group of employees called our classified ambassadors. And what they are and what they do are, there's that one classified employee that's usually at a school site that's super connected to the community. They're either the activity supervisor who's out in the parking lot greeting the parents, or the crossing guard, or the translator, clerk, typist who's in the office. Somebody who's engaging with our parents in our community on a level that they belong usually to the community too. They usually live in the district. And so what we have done to have them as a communications ambassador is we set up quarterly meetings throughout the year, and we provide them with information such as like the vision, and how the things in our district are being connected to that vision, because then our hope is that those classified ambassadors will go back to their site and talk to the parents in the community, and talk to them and spread that same message, but they will receive it because they're already comfortable talking with that one individual. And these classified ambassadors have been somebody that we can seek input from also. What are you hearing? Like kind of that street data, right? That what is it that is a need over in this area of our district, or that area of our district? And then we have opportunities for them to then share the different things that are happening at each other's sites too. Our staff, absolutely. Our teachers and our staff are our communications ambassadors. The social media team, they're getting all of the good things that just one person can't do. If we have those teams around the district, we're flooding with all of the great things. We're flooding our systems of knowledge of how many good things are happening. And it's lovely to see how many kids or families like to be to make it to our social media too. Parents and PTA, of course, they're always a good communication as soon as we can get the right information to them. Then we have the loud voices. They can become your biggest allies if you listen to those biggest voices, and you take the time to communicate with them. That loud voice can then come to our advantage also. It's just about building that relationship and trust, and making that the priority prior to expecting those right results.
And I'll go ahead with the next one, Denise. So make sure though, when you engage your communications army, to have a plan. So assess the situation. Is it something you need them to intervene in? And if so, how? And make sure that you have a plan. Develop a tactical communications plan. So maybe not the fancy plan that we do for a campaign, for example, but at least a plan of what message we want to get out, how we're going to implement it, who the audience is, etc. And sometimes those are done really quickly, depending on the situation. Make sure your leadership is all on the same page. So I feel that our cabinet does a really excellent job of making sure our board is informed first, and we'll talk a little bit about that process later. Our cabinet, our directors, we have a leadership team called Superintendent's Council, and it's basically all directors in the district, classified and certificated, and making sure they all know what's happening and what the plan is very important. And again, it comes right back to developing clear, consistent messaging that can be shared by everyone. So not having public messages that are different, making sure that the main message is the same, although some internal messaging could be different, making sure the same consistent message is shared. And finally, review, praise, and listen. So these folks who are not maybe in the communications often, are not in the communications office, but are helping you to share your story, thank them for what they've done. Thank them if they if they jumped in quickly and were helping families, or they shared your social media post on their page, or any way, or they answered the phone and were polite and helpful. Any way you hear that they have been helping in this situation, make sure to say thank you. And again, continue to cultivate those relationships so you're ready for the next time.
So furthering our discussion on our communications army, I like the army because it feels like it's a strong force. It is still positive and also protective, I think. And what we're protecting is our students, the well-being of our students, the safety and the education of our students with our communication. Empowering your team, which includes our classified staff. As I mentioned before, we have a Hooper Unified School District Classified Leadership Academy. And what that does, it prepares them and trains them to be an even more employee. It builds their capacity and it helps them understand the expectations of our district and helps them align with the things that we want them to do to support our vision, which ultimately supports our children and student learning. So we go over all kinds of areas. We teach them fiscal, budgeting, things that would be connected to anything with the business services, facilities, transportation. We want to develop them to understand our organization, all of the positions that could potentially be available to them, and what it means to be a capable and qualified employee in any of those positions. Now, communications is something that overlaps into all of these. And we recognize that here in HR. And so we partner with our communications department to help us give that message. We don't always give that message just ourselves, because we want to show that we trust our communications department also, so that they can present that and familiarize themselves with those employees, can familiarize themselves with our communications department also. And what this does is it makes the employees that we have, when we provide this is free to them. And even if it's within their workday, we excuse them from work to attend. But this is an investment we are putting into them. And what happens in return is they feel that we are investing in them and that we want them to have the skills and the knowledge and the ability to advance into other positions that will only greater benefit the district. And that this is one more way that we do that. So the pluses of a crisis, from an employee relations perspective, this can benefit your team, and it can be immeasurable, because what happens in a crisis with employees, when things go right, when they have communication, when they are able to understand what's going on quickly and feel like they're part of what's happening and not that it's happening to them. If we get all of that right, which we have been, and definitely by the connection between and the relationship between human resources, the communications department, and superintendent's cabinet, we build deeper trust with our employees. Our employees then become engaged. They're more helpful. They want to provide us with information, or they want to spread the word, the accurate word, right? Like as Jackie says, the information, the one message that we want everybody to hear, that's going to be the most beneficial to everybody. It will enhance our credibility, and we come to a common understanding. We're all on the same page with our shared knowledge.
And then from a communication standpoint, difficult times help pull you together. And I know, like, most of us have had situations in our family, our personal lives, where unfortunately a challenge has come up. But at the end of the day, it can make your family or your network stronger. And how do we do that? How do we make sure that it, at the end of the day, ends up being a positive learning experience? Communicate early. So don't wait until it's all over, the news or social media, whatever the situation is. Tell your team first and early, engage that communications army and let them know that we're going to need their assistance with something. Follow up often and share any lessons learned as appropriate. So it might be our superintendent council, or it might be, just cabinet learning and sharing in the way that they would like to share with their supervisors. But that can help you all grow stronger in the end.
Jackie, there's a question in the chat about how classified employees sign up for the Leadership Academy. Denise, can you answer that?
Sure can. So we do have an application process. And then we do limit we have 25 people in each cohort, and we don't have it every year. What we're trying to do is have a certificated administrator academy 1 year, and then the following year. So basically the application is to see why they want to be part of the Classified Leadership Academy. And for the most part, we thought we would be like, oh, well, everybody will just come because there won't be that many. But we had a ton of applicants wanting to. And their reasons were really based off of they really want to promote and they want to be able to build their knowledge and they want to stay in Harupa. And so those are the folks that we accepted into the Leadership Academy. What we ended up seeing is there were almost 2 different subgroups of classified employees, and they wanted different things. And so for this section of our Classified Leadership Academy, we admitted people who are clerical, are interested in clerical, advancing into more assistant roles, that kind of a thing, versus we had some other types of positions like activity supervisors, crossing guards, campus supervisors. They wanted a little bit something different. And so now with that application, I can develop the Leadership Academies based off of those needs and those particular advancements.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. So communication strategies. So once you know you're going to communicate, who you're going to communicate, what your message is, who your audience is, here's just some strategies that we use here in Harupa Unified. So again, clear and consistent messaging, making sure everyone's getting the same message. Transparency, we really work to be transparent. Of course, in some situations, we can't share everything everyone wants, and that's on a regular basis. People want to know everything. We share as much as we can so that we know that we are honest brokers. We do need to respect privacy and legal limitations, particularly if it's a human resources issue. Again, build your communications army, make sure you have them ready to go. Discourage rumors with accurate and timely information. And what I'm very pleased to see is that a lot of times, unfortunately, I'm sure all of our communications professionals can attest to, things happen. And the very first thing people do is post it on social media. And since we have been working very hard to get a streamlined process in line over the past 2 years, people will comment on a rumor with the screenshot of what we sent to everyone 5 minutes before. So that just stops the rumor mill in its tracks. I mean, you still are going to have some, people who are just determined to spread rumors, but it really does get the truth out there, and it's been working great.
So a couple of minutes ago, both Jackie and Denise talked about lessons learned. And so the system in front of you, the information flow is really the outcome of some of those lessons learned over the years. We always thought that we had a system in place for who we would communicate with, at what time, and in what order. But we found that as crises or other incidents came up, there were times where things got a little bit out of control unintentionally, despite our best efforts. And that's because we weren't always considering some of the audiences that we really needed to ensure that we were communicating with consistently, in order to really leverage that communications army that we had at our disposal potentially. So this is a system that we developed really like in the heart of the pandemic. We started to realize that with about 18,000 students and families, 2,200 thereabout employees, 26 school sites, including our adult school and our preschool programs, we were sometimes losing control of the information that we needed to ensure got in the right hands clearly. And so we developed what's in front of you. And a lot of this we've already talked about through this presentation, but obviously big decisions, critical decisions, they come from our superintendent, from the cabinet level. We make sure the board hears them. And then we also need to make sure, as Denise talked about, our union leaders. So the people representing our employees, which is a big deal. I know not everybody here is from California, but in California, unions are a thing. And so we have to communicate with our union leadership, and also our administrators. Sometimes, crazy as it sounds, at times our site leaders or principals and assistant principals were left out of that mix. And that was one gap in our ability to really clearly communicate and make sure that that message was getting out there. And then very often in the past, again, lessons learned, we would jump right to, okay, let's push this out on social media. Let's put a letter out there, taking it for granted that our teachers and our classified employees would just receive that message and carry that forward. But very often they were out of the loop, and would, by the end of a given day, be getting a call from a parent and not be able to provide accurate information in response to their questions. So we've found very simply, by delivering the information in this order, giving just a little bit of time to bridge that gap with each of these layers, so that whether it's the board, whether it's our principals, whether it's teachers at the school site, they all have that information and have a handle on it before it ultimately makes its way out to our community. That's been a really effective and kind of essential piece. And then Jackie, on the next slide, I know there's another way of looking at it. It's kind of my preferred way. Jackie's always doing, kind of making real all the crazy ideas sometimes that I come up with, but I always was seeing this in terms of like these concentric circles. So the information starts maybe in the center. You know, we can kind of be the hub here in our school district, at the district level, a cabinet and a board. That would also include those directors, our superintendent's council, and then some of the other close groups that we work with in terms of like our union leadership. But then it would emanate out ultimately to that wider community. It's just another way of illustrating it, but it's key. I can't say that we every time have the ability to do this. There are sometimes, as we all know, we're closing schools. We had a fire a couple of years ago, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, and we had to do things really quickly. You sometimes have to jump to the end, but whenever we can, whenever possible, we really try to follow this flow, and it's helped us.
So, as you would expect an HR person to say, please know what you can share and what you should not share, right? So things that we can share are basic information about situations, and we find that important. Definitely addressing the steps the district is taking to handle the matter, even if it's not very specific. It does make people feel better, of course, when they know how we are addressing the issue. We definitely want to make sure that if there are any safety concerns, that is absolutely something we should share. And supports that are available to any of our students, to our staff, and anybody in our community. We want to make sure that's all included, and we would encourage all of those things to be shared in our communications. We would caution, and we would even insist that specific personnel information not be communicated out widely, of course. Absolutely no information on pending litigation. That shouldn't be part of the widespread communication, and very limited even internally, actually. Any identifying of students or staff in particular on a situation of who is involved specifically, we don't want that either. And if you're ever in doubt, I know this is also an HR thing to say, but check with legal. We do that often because we want to be on the right side of things. And then the other thing is when we're negotiating, we shouldn't be talking about how negotiations is going. And having some of that information, some of those details would be things that I would say not to share. Oh, this one. Sorry.
Oops, who let me drive?
I think that one too. Jackie.
So just as a short example and just checking time, this is like a 1-minute video, so I'm gonna attempt to see if it works. But basically, what this was a way where HR and comms put their heads together. We had a situation, and I'm sure this has happened in a lot of other districts, where someone doesn't like the meals. And so they just horribly attacked our nutrition services team about the food. And it was very mean. And so we wanted to do something to address that. It actually was demoralizing for our staff. And so we wanted to do something to address that. And so we thought, hey, it's school lunch week. Let's get our superintendent, who's the good sport, to learn how to cook the new barbecue chicken sliders that our team just won an award for, and show our community that, hey, we have these like gourmet meals actually. So don't listen to some of these people complaining and know the truth. So I'm going to do my best to open this. Let's see, come on, I'm gonna link in a new window and let's see if this is working. Can you guys see this okay? All right, now we will. Oh. I'm sorry about the sound, it's not working though. It's just music. Let's see.
Yeah, we aren't able to see the video, Jackie.
Oh,
It is a cool video though.
all right. All right, guys, I am so sorry. Let's see what we can do here. Sharing. Okay. No. All right. No.
So Jessica, you said that we'll be able to link to it later. Okay. So we probably just keep going
I'm
on.
sorry about that, you guys. Let me go back to
It's worth watching for everybody later.
I don't want to do this. Okay, now I'm on the wrong. All right, am I back to my original? I'm so sorry. Yes, it'll be in the link. Okay, so as an example of one of the crises that we used our communications army for, and how this system worked is about a year ago, we had a district-wide power outage, and a number of our sites were affected to the point where we weren't going to be able to have school. And it was all happening as school was starting. It was really scary. So our wonderful superintendent has great leadership and called all hands on deck. We were able to send the message to all staff using Parent Square and social media, but also I think there were some cell phone calls made to make sure that all of the people at the sites knew what was going on, and some face-to-face interactions. I believe we had some leaders going to sites and going to certain offices to make sure they got the information. And we had very few, if any, kids left behind at school on a day when we were going to have to cancel because of this power outage. And then I know a lot of us have dealt with Tropical Storm Hillary this year. So it was a big deal here in Southern California and in our own area in inland. We weren't sure how hard the storm was going to hit. There was a lot of talk about it would be the storm of the century, and some school districts near us did close caused a lot of a chaotic atmosphere and panic, actually. And so we just made sure to have regular and consistent messaging to our staff and parents and throughout the weekend, because even though school's out, I mean, what is everyone worried about? Is their work, is their school? And so that worked out well. It did not initially work out well because people were saying, this school district next to you is closing. Why are you closing? You're making the wrong choice. And it got some chatter on social media, but we did the right thing. And I feel that what actually really did help with this too is our superintendent. And then I found out Mr. Brooks and Ms. Hernandez, who did not share this with me at the time, also personally visited sites to make sure everyone was okay, that the schools were safe, that there indeed was no reason to close schools. Sincerity matters is the point, is that we don't just say things, we actually do them. And I think that people know that. People know when you're sincere. And I think this one is me too. So I'm crisis girl. We had a situation also, I think this was about a year ago, where it was late-ish at night, maybe 7 o'clock. It was late at night, and all of a sudden we are notified that a child is missing. He was supposed to, Daniel can tell more, but I believe he was supposed to go to a function, didn't show up, and instead went to a friend's house and ended up being found in a park. I think that's right, Daniel. But it
It
caused.
was fine. He was playing football with his buddies.
Yeah, I knew there was a football situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was panic. Where is this child? Sheriff's Department put out an all points bulletin, still can't find the child. We used Parent Square, which is the method we use to get our instant messaging out. He was found within minutes because we got 20,000 eyes on that message, whereas, not to knock our law enforcement team, but you might not have you don't have the same audience for the Sheriff's Department. So not every parent is looking at that, but every parent is looking at us. And we were able to find this child and everything worked out okay. And that is because of the communications army and everybody keeping an eye out for each other. Okay.
So a little away from our crisis is really the good stuff, right? And our collaboration in HR with communications, I really think contributes to us being a multi-year top workplace identified by the Inland News Group. We give a survey to the Inland News Group sends a survey to all of our employees. And in our area, we have won to be top workplace, the top workplace award last year and again this year. You can see how beautiful this looks. That is in connection with communications. When we have good things, they're celebrated, and communications will work with us and collaborate on where is the best place to display this. Is it on the billboard on one of the major arteries of, coming into our district on a particular street? Is it making sure it's on our LinkedIn? Is it outside of our M&O office to help me hire, good folks in the community that just need to know about us and believe that we are a top workplace, because we are, and voted by our employees. Nothing says that more. And then what do we do with that is the collaboration on the good stuff. And, more brains in the game always help, right? And if you go on to the next slide, you can see these are some of our hiring efforts after the pandemic. It was a whole new world in HR when it came to recruitment and hiring. I wouldn't say we were hiring people that came in their pajamas and slippers, but we were hiring people that we were like, oh, you want a job? So we wanted to solicit hard to get positions, and we have done that now in connection with in relation with communications department, because they will help us. For example, on the left-hand side, if you see, it says work at Jurupa Valley High School. It's a flyer that could be placed at that high school for people who are coming and going at that high school. And when you say Jurupa Unified School District, we were trying to, and when we worked with Jackie and her team, we're trying to narrow down what that really means to an applicant. Where would they work? Is it here at the district office? Is it at Herpa Valley High School? Is it at a different high school, at a different elementary school? We wanted to bring in our community and people who we know would be invested in the well-being of our children and our students in the community. And so that was one way that we collaborated. And you know, it's a well-known fact that bus drivers are a little bit hard to find. And so we knew we wanted to get, you know, as much as we could, and we're trying to throw out everything we possibly could towards those recruitments. And with the collaboration with communications, the transportation department, our business services, cabinet, and HR, we came up with a bus driving training program and incentives to get that, so that we could grow our own. And again, it's almost that investment in somebody in order to then return their services to us. So we taught them and got them into bus driving schools and lessons and things like that. That wouldn't have been such a success that it is today if we didn't have our collaboration, our effective collaboration with communications, in order to bounce those ideas off of what would be the best way, what's the biggest bang for our buck. You know, Jackie is wonderful to work with, but you know, sometimes you need to know, like, we might have a lofty idea and she'll say something like, oh, nobody uses that forum anymore. And I'll be like, well, I didn't know. And then I can trust her expertise. And then we can get a more targeted audience.
Before I jump to the next slide, I just wanted to, for our communications folks, you will appreciate good old RPI was involved in this. So we wanted to flyer. I'm like, wait, let's do RPI. Let's sit down and write a communications plan, and let's, you know, have some measurable goals and a timeline, and it worked. And yeah, we were able to do really well in a short amount of time.
Here's some more good things that we collaborate on. We have Employees of the Year. We have a celebrating JUSD Educators event at the end of the year. And so you have your Teachers of the Year, you have Counselors of the Year, you have Classified Employees of the Year, and we have one big celebration at the end of the year. That has been kind of part of the culture of Jurupa Unified School District, but it's always been like, you don't really know unless you went to this event. And since we've started collaborating with communications more, we pull ideas to give those shout outs. And so, although I don't know what that plan was exactly what you just called it, Jackie, but she's very, you know, with communications, having a system and a plan of when we're announcing all of these throughout the year. So maybe we won't just have one post, we'll have several posts of the different Employees of the Year. Communications also helps a lot with the event, and those events have been elevated based off of the ideas that are connected to communications input. Jackie does like a run of show for us, and I think the most important thing to talk about that is the intentionality of all of those details matter, and they matter to the people who are being honored. And again, that then just builds the more investment in our district. So if we're fumbling or if something doesn't go right, they could feel embarrassed, right, if they're being honored. But because of all of that intentionality and good planning between the two departments, things go off really well and people feel very celebrated. And then in return, they are loyal to our district as an employee, to our students, and so on.
I'm going to speed up just a little bit, Denise, just for the sake of time. But again, I'm just, if you don't mind, I'm going to just talk about Best of the Best real quick. So Best of the Best, unless you want to mention anything, Denise, is just a celebration of all of our best employees in the district as voted by their peers. So again, empowering your team to be the communicators. They are telling us who's doing a great job. They see them every day, so they know who's the best of the best, and they are recognized at a board meeting and on social media. And again, sorry, Denise, just for the sake of time, I'm moving a little fast.
Right.
Okay, so I think we may have time we have 5 minutes left, so we were gonna walk through some scenarios. Would you guys like to do that or just have time for questions?
I think there's one question in the chat about job postings and if you list them by school site.
No, I'll answer. We don't always. In some cases we do. It's not a consistent practice. It just depends on the position. We do get out and we communicate with our ambassadors through our site administrators if there are open positions. That is another way that we use them to identify what site. But like if I'm hiring a bilingual tutor, I'm hiring for the entire district. I may list a couple different sites, but not typically, mostly just on the certificated.
Can I jump in on that? Like just thinking about the strategy of the posting that we saw a couple of slides ago. It had something to do with like work at Harupa Valley High School. And at the time, we were really struggling to recruit for a lot of our classified positions, our lower paying positions, and thought that there might be an opportunity to kind of capitalize on the fact that we have a potential pool of employees dropping off their kids, picking them up every day, and that we would get that out there. And we might have somebody who says, hey, I'm looking for work, and I could work right here where my kids go, or I could work at the high school I graduated from a few years ago, and so on. And we just kind of saw some opportunity. I think we saw some benefit in that, but Denise would know better than me.
We absolutely did. We have on our, when we process them to employees to come in, we ask, where did you hear from us? Like we're trying to measure, and we didn't have that in place prior to that strategic plan that we worked on with Ms. Paul, because we want to now see, we're having kind of a measure of where these candidates are coming from, and then we also do exit interviews too.
So we're just in the interest of time, we're going to move forward and ask, I think Jessica kindly put in the chat, any other questions? And if they're tough, go for it. We probably encountered it. So I'm going to go ahead and read this one out. So let's see here. Notification of stakeholders during crisis communication is more or as beneficial than tiered notification. When we use a tiered approach for something other than, other than routine messaging, that gap still provides someone else to try to control, to try to control the message on social media or the media tips. Yes. So the thing is, it's the same message, a little bit tiered as we showed before, but it's happening really fast. So it's not hours, until one group gets it and the next gets it. It's pretty much simultaneous. Would you guys not say, Daniel and Denise?
Yeah, when necessary. I mean, we try to, as I described, leave a little bit of gap of time when possible, but that isn't always possible, as your question contemplates. And yeah, so at times, yeah, it's pretty quick, pretty much simultaneous.
And then Courtney is asking how we're able to keep track of the e-birthday cards. Are you automating part of that or all of that process? So and you guys can jump in on this too, but I know that the superintendent's office sends those. Dr. Hansen does use his administrative assistant to help, executive assistant to help with that. But I'm not really involved in the process of how he figures it out.
It's automated. Yeah, and she's brilliant and skilled, and she has this nice, beautiful graphic that goes out, and it's all set up in advance. She loads it all, and it just goes out to you. You get it on your birthday. It's kind of nice. I've gotten them too, and I see the guy all the time, and sends me a birthday email. It's very, very pleasant.
Thank you. We've come to the end of our time. We just want to say thank you so much for everyone, and I'm going to pass it over to Ms. DeRico.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Denise, Daniel, and Jackie, for sharing your strategic advice and your real life learnings and scenarios with everyone. There were so many great strategies that we can consider in our communications plans and how they can apply in our own school districts. So thank you very much. Attendees, we thank you for joining us today. We hope you've been given some additional tools for your strategic comms plans that are meeting your needs right now. Our chapter leaders, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for organizing really high quality, free professional learning sessions that our regions and members here need to do our work right now this year. Look for additional session information in our upcoming webinars directly from me to our Southwest members and from your chapter leaders. The next one's February 23rd at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. We're going to dive into some more essential learning about applying AI to our work as school comms professionals. This concludes our webinar. Thank you all for joining us today.